I've figured out why I'm tired of you all talking about Cardi B's womb. Basically, let's start with this. Cardi B has money privilege, and I gotta tell you, the conversation around having kids goes beyond money. A lot of times when you're having children, you have to have a certain kind of community backing behind you, which I strongly believe Cardi B has. I can quote her by saying that she states that she only hangs out with her family. I've seen videos of her children back home with the grandparents cleaning the floors. I've seen videos of her online with her family. She seems to spend a lot of time with her family, and she seems to be very hands-on with her children. I'm not saying that she doesn't have nannies. I'm sure she does, but it seems that she has a kind of community and family structure that is necessary when you're raising children, especially when you're raising multiple kids. So outside of that money and class privilege, she also has a social backing that a lot of us haven't had when we're raising children. But also, I think what really irritates me about this entire conversation is that we're living in a time when women are being forced to have babies when they don't want to. We're still living in a time where there is mass sterilization that has happened, or the idea or the feeling, the need, the implementation of ideas was at least considered in order to keep women or certain women from being able to reproduce. So here we have a person with money and class privilege who wants to have children, who's having children, and the only thing that y'all can do during this current climate is complain that she's, well, doing whatever the fuck she wants with her own body. I'm confused. Do we want women to have bodily autonomy, or don't we? Because it sounds like we're talking out both sides of our mouth. Now, trust me, as somebody that did not grow up with money and class privilege, I do understand when there's a lot of discussion about how women should protect their wombs, as we should. If we don't have the community backing, if we don't have the money, listen, in some instances it's not about the money, because different people across different parts of the world have babies for different reasons. And as I've stated before, a lot of you would not be born if the women of the world had to choose the men that they had the babies with. Or rather, if we had better pickings, a lot of you wouldn't be here. Matter of fact, we would not even be, none of us would be here. We'd be extinct, because that's how limited the choices are. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Women are out here fighting for bodily autonomy. This has been since the existence of time. And there is somebody out there who is doing what she wants with her body. And it's the same people that are complaining about women not having bodily autonomy, women not being seen as people, women not being seen as anything other than tools, getting mad at somebody that is showing you her expression and living the way that she wants to, and having a family. Now listen, I'm not saying the circumstances are the greatest, but she was also married when she had the first 3 children, and that circumstance looked good. But look what he did. I want to be clear, he cheated on her. She didn't get cheated on. He cheated on her. He cheated on his wife. That way that we frame that actually matters in this situation. And I love that she went out and got her lick back. And yeah, now she's pregnant with her boyfriend's kid. And you know what? That is her business. Because when I say that I want women to be able to make the choices that they want to make with their bodies, I mean that shit with my whole chest. But let me get to the bottom line of this conversation. I'm not just talking about the family structure and the money and the class privilege. I'm not just talking about bodily autonomy. What I want to get at is how we still leave the patriarchy unscathed in these conversations. Now, again, I know that we have these discussions about how any woman should be very mindful of how we use our bodies and who we give our bodies to. Because ultimately, under the patriarchy, we are not seen as human at all. We're not seen as anything other than a tool that men could use. I think I got that from Dr. Cecilia, I forget her full name. But for the most part, under the patriarchy, men don't actually see women as humans. They see us as something that they can use and throw away. We are a notch on their belt and nothing more. So sure, that conversation does happen. But in this conversation around how many children are being birthed, the patriarchy seems to still be untouched in this discussion. And I'm talking specifically about Kanye Mental Illness West. Now, while we're sitting there talking about Cardi's womb, Can we just talk about how Kanye knows that he has a mental illness, but insisted on procreating to have children when he knows that he's unwell? And no, I'm not taking any digs on people with mental illness, because once upon a time in a court of law, it was attempted to use against me to say that I was mildly depressed. I had a mild mental illness, thus I was unfit to take care of my children, which is a total bunch of crap, because you can totally be mentally ill and still be able to take care of your children if you got some help, depending on how far you are in the mental illness. Now, in Kanye's situation, from what I understand, he's deliberately talking about not wanting to take meds, rather being dead than taking the meds, but still, he decided to be irresponsible and procreate and procreate and procreate. And now the kids, who are half black or fully black, depending on whose perspective you're seeing it from, are left with this family. And I hate to say it, but the fathers that are going out spewing out children, sometimes you have to consider, like, how is it going to be if the mother is unable to take care of these kids anymore? How is it going to be if you have to become the sole custodial parent of these children? That is never really considered, because the weight is always falling on the mother, right? It seems like the men in these conversations are never really considered and never really dissected in the way that we dissect and try to understand why women, why women, why women. Shit, honey, why men? They are not the senseless creatures that we give them so much credit for being. They actually know what they're doing. They're very deliberate and intentional about what they do. And Kanye also was intentional about who he chose to have children with, how many children. And from what I remember, he actually wanted more, but Kimmy K couldn't do it. So here you have this man completely irresponsible in so many ways, because, I mean, let's be for real. Look who he had children with. Look what kind of family he bore children into. One of the most hated. And I'm not saying I necessarily hate them, but I'm saying they're quite hated. We know that. Sure, they are popular, but there's a big part of society that just is not feeling these people. So this is who you chose to procreate with? These culture guzzling women that are, some people would say, are attention whores. I mean, look, I'm not judging. I'm just saying this is what's going on in the rumorville. So is he not irresponsible? Is he not irresponsible knowing that he has no capacity to take care of these children on his own, but instead he just went ahead and did this thing, regardless of who he chose to have the babies with? He just went ahead and did this thing because it's okay for men to be completely unwell, completely unfit, completely, financial half-wits, and be able to spew out these babies. Meanwhile, it's always like, well, the woman. And maybe neither one or two people are right or wrong in this situation. Maybe everybody is equally yoked at taking responsibility for this. But if that is the case, I kind of just wish that the conversation, when we're doing the dissecting and we're trying to dig at the nuances, that we would kind of make the playing field equal. But I guess that's super difficult, because in the society that we live in, the playing field with men and women are never, ever equal. And unfortunately, the women are always going to bear the burden of the scrutiny, because we still, in a lot of ways, aim to protect the patriarchy. So anyway, the plot of my story is, can y'all stay out of women's wombs? Can y'all leave Cardi B alone? Can she have as many babies as her heart desires? Because ain't none of you gonna have to take care of them. That is for her and her family. She comes from a line of women who have had a lot of children, and maybe that's what she wants. And I think that if we really want women to be able to make choices, we can't just have them making choices that we want them to make. We have to mean it with our whole chest. Let her have as many kids as she wants by whomever she wants. It's her business. Particularly being that I think, from what I see, she's incredibly hands-on and involved, and so is her family. And sometimes that's all we can ask for. Anyway, guys, maybe once you see this video and you are gonna lay your head down to sleep, you can, mind your fucking business. Have a good night.